What's up, everybody? How's it going? Welcome to the stream. It's Tuesday, so we're getting tactical today. Now, I wasn't actually entirely sure what to talk about today, but I realized there's actually some exciting stuff that has been kind of unearthed by the internet over the last couple hours. First up, we have some data sheets that I haven't yet talked about on the channel, so I think we'll dive into those. There were a couple that were spoiled over the weekend that we haven't talked about, so we'll talk about some of those. There's some Eldar ones, there's some Deathguard ones. It's pretty interesting stuff. It's definitely more fun toys for Eldar to play with. So if you're an Eldar player in 10th edition, oh my god, enjoy blowing everybody up for a while. Well, hopefully the other factions can compete, but we'll just have to see. We also saw there's a bit of an interesting update to the Games Workshop web store. They've actually added in the 9th edition keywords for every unit in the game, as far as we know, to the web store. So each of the model kits on the website can be sorted by their new keywords. So we can actually find things like battle line units for each faction we actually know now, which is pretty sweet. Plus, we have some additional detachment rules and stuff to talk about. So let's frickin' dive in, everybody. Thanks for coming hanging out. Hope everyone had a good weekend. Hope everyone played some games, maybe prepped their armies for the new edition and is ready to go. How do you beat Eldar Platforms? I mean, we'll have to see. I think it doesn't... They're going to do a lot of damage, but they are like a real glass cannon. So, I mean, a lot of it comes down to points. It might be that they're just exorbitantly costed. If they're like 100+ points, then I think you see maybe a couple of them, but it's not like sort of this huge Death Star. If they're the same points values that were in 9th, then we have a real problem. But I don't anticipate them being like this unbeatable thing. They're just going to do a lot of damage. I wonder what chaplains will do. Yeah, that's an interesting question too. I almost like imagine they're probably going to be leadership 4 or 5 for sure. Hopefully they have. I would like to see more units be able to slot in alongside captains, like we've seen the apothecary be able to do. The exclusivity of characters kind of sours them on me a little bit, because like you have a best in slot for each character and you just stick them in there, and then in other situations and like that's the only character that goes in there for the most part. But the characters where you can combo multiple characters together are much more interesting. So hopefully chaplains can jump in like next to a captain or something. Is there a location that has all these data sheets in one place? Well, you should come check out all my videos that has all the data sheets in them. There you go. Bam. Sisters can beat them with an exorcist. Absolutely. Yeah, I think counter battery is certainly going to be powerful. Being able to shoot back with your own indirect fire, because they're not that hard to kill. So even basilisks or something, like I have Death Guard up on the screen right now. Even Death Guard, if they can send a unit out to get the platform in their aura, if I remember the stats correctly, a Plague Burst Crawler wins them on 2s. And if you can get line of sight with the Lord of Virulence, that unit's just dead, right? You're like hitting on 3s, wounding on 2s, ignore cover. They're on a 6-up save, and then they die to like 2 or 3 conversions. So I think there's counterplay in a lot of different factions. It really just depends on like what's in your army. And I think, again, we don't know points yet, so it's kind of hard to extrapolate too much. Want to see more Necron data sheets? Oh, for sure. The Necrons have been the biggest one, because, I mean, at least Death Guard, right? Like, our preview article wasn't that exciting, but we did get a lot of their data sheets, so we kind of know what's going on. Necrons, they didn't have a very good preview article, and then they never showed anything else, so we're still really, like, wondering what Necrons do. But it's going to be Tyranids. It's the Tyranid and Space Marine show for the rest of the week, I think. So get ready for that if you play another faction. But then, hopefully, over the coming weeks, we'll start to see other stuff. Have we seen all the upgrades and stratagems for Space Marines? Yeah, that's one of the things we're going to talk about today. At least the Gladius Strike Force has been basically entirely spoiled through battle reports, so you can basically play the entire thing. Anyone else find it strange the Eldar bikes don't have the Ride Their Wind special rule? Oh, the automatic 6 advance? So, I think one of the things they're doing is a lot of the data sheets in the game, or a lot of the game is being slowed down significantly. So, units are slower. there's less kind of advance and do other stuff rules. And that's going to be one of them. And honestly, I think that's fine for Eldar. Eldar were probably too fast. They created problems in 9th edition that they were so fast. But we also saw, like, a lot of that Move 16 stuff is almost entirely gone. Move 16 stuff is basically almost entirely dropped down to Move 14. And even previously Move 14 has dropped down to Move 12. So we're getting, like, -2 movement on most of the game. All right, let's dive in. Let's talk about these data sheets that we haven't talked about yet. Boop. So we got the Bloat Drone for Death Guard. This guy looks pretty interesting. The one thing I miss is that it doesn't look like they've retained his ability to heroically intervene. So that was what it did in 9th edition. Was he had a 1 CP strat to intervene them 6 inches. So the cool thing about the Bloat Drones is not only that they were kind of fast. Oop, I'm gonna get my telestrator on here. They were kind of fast, right? But at least for Death Guard, especially for Death Guard, they're no longer outpaced by Mortarion, so at least they're tied with him for the fastest units in the Codex. But then they could like fight for objectives really well because there was really no way you could interact with them. That's gone. Now they just get the ability to fall back and shoot and charge, which is good, but it's not that exciting, especially because they're a vehicle. Like you would still shoot in melee anyway, so it's kind of whatever. And charging, I guess you fight first when you charge, but if it's an ongoing combat, I guess your opponent would swing first if you were stuck in for a turn, so maybe you're good to fall back. But it's less of an exciting ability than the 1 CP intervention. But they have some pretty solid options. They can either take the Blight Launcher, and then they keep their weapon upgrades are pretty confusing. They have a Flesh Mower as standard. Then they can replace the Flesh Mower with a gun, or 2 flamethrowers. And if they do so, they retain this Plague Probe. So they always have the Plague Probe profile, which in some situations might actually be useful. Because as far as I know, there's no like close combat profile for anything anymore. So unlike 8th edition, where you could choose to just punch someone and not attack with your most powerful weapon, there's no way to do that, but Bloat Drones actually do have it because the probe is built in, so they can snake you with the little poke if they don't want to actually kill you, which is kind of funny. But if they have the Flesh Mower is much better. Obviously, it's higher strength and like triple the attacks, and double damage. But either they get a Blight Launcher. It's a 6-shot weapon with lethal hits. Unfortunately, it's kind of interesting. It's not blast because the other Blight launchers are blast, right? So it doesn't benefit from the Lord of Virulence's ability, which is a little bit of anti-synergy, but it is a solid profile. It's strength 8, AP2, 2 damage. One thing to remember, because Death Guard have a ton of strength 8 weaponry, is that I think that you're sort of intended to contagion the target first. So if you have something faster, I guess the greater Blight Drone is gone, so you can't run like the Move 14 guys in there, but hopefully you can get something within contagion range, and then suddenly all that stuff is basically the equivalent of Strike 9. So they're going to be wounding T9 vehicles, so like the base vehicle profile on 4s, and then a lot of the lighter vehicles on lower numbers. We did see the Torox is kind of T6 equivalent. Is now toughness 8. So if you can get it down to toughness 7, these strength 8, kind of high volume strength 8 weapons that the Death Guard have really tear them up. I don't know if you take the guns over the Flesh Mower, though. It probably depends on points value, but I do like the Flesh Mower a lot because they're really sad in melee with the Plague Probe, but the Flesh Mower swings 10 times and strength 7 AP 1 2 damage. So that's pretty good. Plus, if you reduce toughness values, they wound toughness 4 on 2s, which is kind of nice. They're definitely like an anti-intercessor style kind of unit. You could tank shock them, I guess. It's 9 dice if you tank shock an infantry unit, so you probably get 3 mortals out of it. It's all right. I don't know if that's worth a CP, but it's pretty good. Here's some people say Demon Princes die quickly. Yeah, I don't know about that. Especially not the Demon Prince. Honestly, the Death Guard Demon Prince doesn't seem that great. I don't know if I'm that excited about him. But the Chaos Demon Prince is like it's an equivalent profile to like a gladiator. to begin with. Like, its base profile is like a Gladiator or a Ballistus Dreadnought. It's stealth, and it grants stealth. It is a 4+ invuln that can be improved to a 3+ invuln. So, like, it's a much different comparison. Let's actually, I'm going to go grab the Demon Prince profile real quick here. Because I think that's something that people are going to have to get their head around. These characters that were previously protected by... Here he is. Oh, this is the Death Guard one. Dang. Here he is. These characters that were previously protected by, like, the old school character protection rules are really, like, you really have to reconsider, like, recontextualize how tough they are. So if you compare this guy to, the direct comparison is a Screamer Killer, right? Because if we take a look at the Screamer Killer profile, it's so similar. Do I have that in my notes here? Just real quick so I can pull it up. I hope I do. Dang. Here he is. So here's the Screamer Killer, right? So the Screamer Killer is an independent monster that it's supposed to play by itself. But their profile is like identical, except the Demon Prince is tougher. So you have this unit that's like basically a Dreadnought. The Demon Prince is already harder to kill. They have the same save characteristic. Another thing to keep in mind is that a 2+ save on a monster can be improved by cover now, which you could never do before. So against like AP1, AP2, this guy does not give a shit. This guy doesn't care at all. He's T10. All you have to do is poke like a finger behind a piece of terrain and suddenly he gains cover. And so he's saving on like 2s or 3s against most enemies. If he's not, he's got a 4+ invulnerable save, so he can't be worse than better than a 4. Plus, he has the once per game 3+ invulnerable save, and you can make him toughness 11 if you want to, which you probably don't because toughness 11 is not that useful. But yeah, honestly, like this dude is rocks hard to kill. Plus, your -1 will be hit the whole time. So it's really you have to like. Stop! You have to throw out all of your preconceptions from 9th edition. We're like, oh, he's just like a T6, like 8 wound idiot who just gonna get shot up with a 5+ invulnerable save. Wah wah. No. He's so much tougher now. So yeah, you have to forget everything you knew about 9th edition. These guys are awesome. Bit weird if you give a Terminator captain a Storm Shield instead of a close combat weapon. He becomes the only unit in the game not to have melee. Yeah, it is funny because the rules don't have a recourse for that. He just doesn't do anything in the fight phase. He's like, selected to fight, don't pick a weapon. All right, your go. He can't like hit people with his shield. He's just fighting people. But I think that combination is hilarious and it would look cool because he's got like the gun and the shield, but it's like non-viable. It is funny you can do that, but you definitely wouldn't. Everyone seems to feel that every character should get lone operative if they don't have a leader. Yeah, I don't agree with that. That would be kind of busted, honestly. Because the lone operative in some situations is much more powerful than previous character protection rules. Because there's no way to ignore it. A Vindicare Assassin, like the most powerful anti-character sniper in the game, cannot ignore lone operative. If you are gaining lone operative from something, he can't shoot you, full stop. So if every character had that, you would just never attach them to units. They would be unstoppable, like, objective holders, basically. They could just, like, sit in front of your opponent's army and you couldn't shoot them. It would be more powerful in most situations than the 8th edition character protection rules, which would be nuts. You definitely don't want to do that. And I appreciate the fact that, first off, this edition is taking so much of the focus away from characters and towards the units in the game. So you have to get out of this mindset like in 9th edition where a lot of the focus was creating these character combos, building these smash characters, and then like having the characters go ham on your opponent's army or do like super big flashy things by themselves. That is no longer the intent of the game. And there are some characters that can do that, specifically like the big monsters and the lone operative guys are meant to act like that, but those are the exception rather than the rule. So most of the time, these characters are here to apply keywords to units that they're joining, and those units are really where your focus should be. So I think that, like, you should never expect your characters to survive more than 1 or 2 turns in combat. It's not like, you know, previous editions where you could sneak them in and out of combat. You could use, like, these sort of defensive abilities and reactive effects to have your characters be, like, real focal points of the game. Instead, the characters are going to go in with their unit, and the unit's going to die, and the character's going to die. And then you'll be sad about it, but it's okay because your characters are probably 30% less expensive than they were previously. At least from the points like this we've seen so far, a lot of characters are in like the 60-point range. So they're mostly unit upgrades rather than like independent powerhouses, which I mean, it's a different thing. I like Hero Hammer, but it is what it is. I do like the cool thing about it, though, is that that is an option, and if you want to leave the characters out of the units, you can certainly do that. And it's cool that you have like this extra bit of sideboarding at the beginning of the game where you can choose which units your characters join and whether or not they join units at all. So if you look at your opponent's list and you look at your deployment, and your opponent doesn't have any deep strikers, and they don't have any indirect fire, and you look and you have like some objectives that are protected by terrain, you just go, I'm going to leave 2 or 3 characters out of my units so they're not in danger. If your opponent's like Windmill Slams Assassination or something, you'd be like, okay, I'll leave the characters back, and the characters just hold your objectives and they screen your backline for the rest of the game. And you lose the keywords that they're giving, but they're like uninteractable, basically. And if they had lone operative, that would be super broken, because then you couldn't do that if your opponent had indirect fire. But I like that in some matchups that's an option. Two plus saves are going to be averaging 3+ with cover. Yeah. Yeah, people, I think, honestly, I don't know. I'm not sure that 2+ saves should have been impacted by cover. Like, I'm going to be completely honest, because it feels too strong. I don't know. The ability for 2+ saves to do, like, literally anything and then benefit from cover is kind of insane. And yeah, I don't know if I have anything else to say about it. And like the intention of the design team was always to be like, hey, cover's less impactful, which is why they introduced the 3+ rule, which is a common misconception. They stated that cover couldn't improve your save better than a 3+, but that only works against AP 0, and it only works against 3+ armor saves. Because if you're AP 0 into a 2+ armor save, you're still a 2+. The AP is not reducing it, so the cover bonus doesn't matter. And if you're AP 1, then suddenly that AP 0 like clause goes away. So you go to a 1-up save, AP 1 reduces you to a 2-up save, you're still saving on 2s. So the fact that most weapons in the game are like AP 1, AP 2, the 2+ save plus cover is like insanity. It's so strong. And I think that's, when talking about Death Guard chat, I think that's one thing that people are sleeping on as well. Like, Mortarion grants cover to your whole army, and that whole army is like a 2+ save. So like everything's 1-up. If you don't ignore cover, you're just like forcing them on 2+, and they're just rolling infinite 2+. And I think that's going to be stronger than people give them credit for. Anyway, chat, we talked about the Bloat Drone. It seems fine. Again, it'll probably be a cost thing. These guys have always been kind of good. They're good skirmishers, and I think you'll still take them just to have some speed. Wraithguard are one that people have been talking about a lot. Because these guys seem a little nuts, so they're super tough now. T7, 2+ save. Are they faster than they were? They weren't a 6-up movement in 8th edition, were they? I actually had no idea. I played against them like all of 2 times, I think. And they just got smited to death, and I wasn't that worried about it. They were move 5, so they got faster. They got tougher. They got a better saving throw. And again, 2+ armor save. So they're going to be a 1+ armor save for like the entire game. Basically. They have a D-Scythe, which is a blast weapon, but it doesn't flamer. It used to have Torrent, right? Oops. But it doesn't anymore? Oh, I guess not. No, it was always just a blast gun. But it's not even, I guess it's D6 shots, but it's not even blast. But the Wraithcannon is wild. They handed out devastating wounds like candy to the Eldar faction. And now you get this unit of probably 5 dudes who all shoot D6 damage devastating wound shots. So it's like a little mini unit of D-cannon support weapon platforms. Which is pretty nuts. They don't have anything good in close combat. They're just strength 5. They hit on 4s awkwardly, which is weird. I guess their ballistic skill is also 4, so they're kind of baked in having guide. So that's a little bit of a drawback. They're not too good at shooting, and they don't have heavy keyword or anything to get around the bad ballistic skill. So if you're not guiding them, they're probably not doing too much. So that's kind of a balancing factor. But again, that devastating wounds plus Strands of Fate is wild, because as soon as you get a hit, if you really want to kill whatever you do, you just like Farseer any dice you have in your Strands of Fate pool into a 6 and then shoot it through the Wraithcannon, and it does D6 mortal wounds. Which is pretty good. Pretty good. If cover is going to be a big deal and weapons in general have less AP, will the game be focused around dealing mortal wounds and devastating wounds? I think that there's a potential for that, but we haven't seen enough data sheets to really like say for sure if that's going to be the way the metagame goes. It could also be that there's like, because like lethal hits, a lot of factions just have like universal lethal hits and stuff. There could just be a meta where spamming like AP2 auto wounds is the thing to do as well. The other thing that these guys have is that they can shoot after an enemy targets them. It is targets them with anything. So they can fire in melee when they do it, which is pretty wild. And I guess that's the reason the D-Scythe doesn't have the blast keyword, because then it couldn't fire in melee. It should be unfortunate for it. But they get to fire back. They get one shoot back. Unfortunately, if you have guided them, which again I think is kind of the intention, then the guide hit bonus affects them through until your next command phase. So they will get that not only on Overwatch, but also when doing their war contract shoot back. But this gives them a little bit of a disincentive to kill them. So they really play as much more of that like frontline tank unit that you want them to be. I actually kind of like the design. I don't know if I like the weapons for sure. So I think they seem a little bit strong. But I like the design because you want to throw these guys up the middle and like pour your buffs on them, make them hard to kill. Their T7 can be -1 to be wounded if you have a foot farseer with protect, which is and then with a 2+ in cover, they're just like legitimately hard to shift. And if your opponent tries, you get a swing back at them. So if this is a unit that can just sort of sit in the middle for a turn and eat most of your opponent's shooting before it goes down, and pull focus from the rest of the Eldar army, they seem really good. Feel like the GW game designers play Eldar. Kind of does feel that way, chat. We'll have to. I mean, honestly, like we'll have to see other factions. I think some of it is first of all, like the Eldar faction abilities are really, really strong, which we kind of knew like right at the get-go. We were like, holy crap! And I think that sort of trended everybody to like assume that all their stuff was really good. But we don't know points values, and we don't have the same level of knowledge of any other faction. So it could be that you're looking at all these Eldar data sheets because we have like half the faction spoiled at this point, and go like, oh man, Eldar are super busted. And then like in the background here, like Gene Stealer Cult is like, they don't even know what I do. So I think Eldar are going to be really, really, really good, and they're certainly far and away the best thing that has been previewed so far. But whether or not they're the best in the game, I don't know. It could be. Maybe not, though. I feel like the Games Workshop game designers play Age of Sigmar. I don't know, man. I don't know. 10th edition feels like actually pretty solid, to be honest. I'm kind of in on it right now. I'm gonna skip through here. We're gonna talk about the other Eldar datasheets real quick before we finish off. We did get the Avatar of Cain. This guy halves damage. So this is our first instance of damage reduction that's not tied to a stratagem that we have, as far as I know, in the game. It doesn't say whether it rounds up or rounds down. And again, characteristic modifiers are not covered in the core rules, so I don't know how that works. What if you hit him with a damage 3 weapon? Nobody knows. He gives +1 to advance and charge rolls within 6 inches. I guess that's pretty good. He affects himself with it. But I don't know. I guess we'll have to see what Howling Banshees do, I guess. Because traditionally they have been able to advance and charge. And so a +1 to advance and charge really works if you can do both in one turn. That's like really where it gets really strong. So we'll have to see if any Eldar units can do that. But I don't believe that any of their stratagems allowed them to. They could fall back and shoot and charge, but not advance and charge, to my knowledge. I do wonder how strong these big melee things are going to be in Eldar specifically. Or at least these, like, units that want to get up close and personal to your enemy, but don't want to be seen because of the Phantasm stratagem. So you can do things like charge in, kill the unit you're engaged with, Phantasm out of line of sight, or like Phantasm at the end of your opponent's move out of line of sight, but like 2-3 inches closer to your opponent, so you get an easier charge the next turn. I think there's going to be interactions like that that are really, really powerful that people are kind of underrating. That stratagem's insane, by the way. Lets you move 7 inches at the end of your opponent's movement phase for 1 CP, which is super good. You can use it offensively, you can use it defensively. If your opponent doesn't have guns and you're not walking into charge range, they just get wild threat ranges out of nowhere. It's pretty wild. But otherwise, he's a T12 monster. So it's like roughly the equivalent of toughness 9 in the last edition. Because last cannons are going to wound him on 4s, excuse me. Most other anti-tank that's not like big super heavy guns are going to be wounding him on 5s. He's base 2+ save. Again, that's really good. 14 wounds, a 4+ invulnerable save. Lead 6. OC 5. Okay, calm down. He does damage at 5 wounds. And then he can shoot his sword. Sustain hit D3. That is spiky as hell. But that's a cool outlet for your 6s on the hit roll. Because you can Strands of Fate in a 6 to hit and then get D3 additional hits. And it's a Strength 16 EP4 D6 + 2 damage profile. Hot diggity damn. Yeah, that'll blow up a tank by itself if you can if you accidentally shoot it into 4 hits. It's a little spiky. I don't know how much I love the sustained hits on like a big damage one-shot weapon, because the spike is wild. It's like between 0 and 40 damage, but I don't know. 32 damage, I guess. The Devastating Wounds interaction is still up for debate, chat, because Devastating Wounds is problematic. I have a bunch of notes about problematic rules that need FAQs, and I'm kind of like low key holding on for the designer commentary document to release that video, because I don't want to release a video and then have all of my questions immediately be answered. But I might do it this week if I get bored, honestly. But that's one of them. Devastating Wounds is really problematic. We don't know how Devastating Wounds is meant to interact with precision, and damage reduction effects also, we're not sure how it works, because the like timing of the allocation is super weird. So that one's strange. Yeah, it's super weird. Did I read Goonhammer's article about hazardous weapons? No, I don't think so. What did they say? And melee, this guy's pretty good. He swings. His sweep profile is actually 2 damage, which is kind of rare right now. Most of the sweep profiles we've seen have been 1. Strength 7, AP 2 for 2. Or 6 attack, strength 14, AP 4, D6 + 2 damage. It's actually kind of a low strength. He's better at shooting his sword than he is swinging it, at least in the strength department, which is kind of funky. I do think that these big melee monsters, they look impressive in melee, but you're going to be a little disappointed sometimes because they don't have any way to reroll, right? Like innately. Unless you guide him. You could guide him because that's not locked to anything anymore. They could get +1 to wound if Eldrad's buffing him, which we'll talk about in a sec. But he's only 6 attacks and it's AP 4, so most things are either on there invulnerable or are saving on 6s. So you're gonna spike like down on the hit roll, down on the wound roll, and then up into the saving throw. And so you probably only convert like 2 or 3 of these on average, which means you probably don't blow up a tank when you touch it, which is really what you need to do with this guy. And because the tanks only get damage for -1 to hit, they're just gonna turn around and shoot him for 1 billion damage. So I think that, I don't know, melee monsters, unless we see some like real buffs for them, do not feel very strong in 9th edition.
Are you going to cover ACO at all? Dirty Drew and the boys are going to take the trophy back to New England.
Eltempered Fireblade, thanks for the super chat, my guy. I don't have any plans to cover ACO, really. Unfortunately, 9th edition, people aren't excited about 9th edition right now. For some reason. It's almost like there's a new edition coming out. But I wish you guys the best of luck. I hope you guys have an awesome time down there. I hope Cullen doesn't kill any of you with alcohol poisoning or get you like locked into a strip club by accident or something. Or on purpose. He could do that. You'd never put anything past that guy. But yeah, I hope you guys have an awesome time, and I hope you win it. I'm rooting for Drew, I hope you win it, honestly. Take some Tau jank and shoot people with railguns and make them quit. A lot of abilities say half the damage in attack, but never get minimum. Does that mean damage 1 becomes damage 0.5? That's the problem right now. Is that the core rules do not discuss characteristic modification at all. It's a real big problem with when talking about these data sheets. We also see it on like the Ripper Swarm from Tyranids halves your OC value, but it doesn't tell you how to round, so we don't know how it works with OC 1 or OC 3. It's a real open question. There's some problems currently. How does a 1+ save work? You basically just reduce the armor saving throw of your opponent. So your a 1 always fails on your saving throw, but the armor penetration gives you minuses to it. So you're like normally saving on a 1, but a 1 is a natural failure. So if your opponent reduces your saving characteristic, you're going to be saving on a 2 instead with AP 1. So a 1 is still a failure. And then if you're AP 2, then you're still on a 3+ save. Once you buff your save past 2+, you're basically just reducing incoming AP. I also imagine that rounds up for sure, but, you know, who knows? If everything rounds up, though, there's going to be some abilities that are really, really sad. Those Ripper Swarms are garbo. If they don't work against 1 OC value. All right, let's go and talk about Eldrad next, because I did mention him. This guy seems like a little bit of an auto-include. I wonder how expensive these Farseers are going to be, because it kind of feels like you're like you want to slap like one of every Farseer onto the table with this faction. Importantly, there's no such thing as like a sub-faction anymore. So this guy, he's like an Ulthway character, but there's no Ulthway restrictions. So it looks like the epic heroes might just be takeable altogether. And whether or not that's the same for Space Marines, we don't know, but it might be sort of insane if you could just slap every single Space Marine together. But we haven't seen the back end of their epic hero cards, so we have no idea. But Eldrad can be taken next to, I don't know, like Prince Uriel and the other Eldar characters. Who are the characters that aren't Phoenix Lords? Amelin Shadow Guide and Illic Nightspear. They can all just slot together in a big happy family. A big happy elf family. But that means that you're not like sort of forced into playing Ulthway if you want to play Eldrad, which means that Eldrad's going to be all over the place. So the big thing is that he grants you 3 additional fate dice at the start of the game. Just full stop, you get 3 more dice. So you start with 15. If you take the ability to re-roll 1 per battle round, then you basically get 5 more. And if you have the standard Guardian squads, then the Guardian Defender squads, then you gain 1 more every battle round. So you basically have the equivalent of like 25. It's actually 20, but a bunch of them get re-rolled, and then you get 5 of them turning into 6s every turn. That's pretty nuts, honestly. I would be surprised if, and this is one thing we didn't talk about when we talked about the original Guardian Defenders. Those guys probably not going to be able to generate more than 1 dice per command phase, because all of the missions have a single objective in your deployment zone. Unless you're playing like Ritual or something, and you can generate new objectives in your deployment zone, or near your deployment zone for them to access, it's likely that you won't be able to hold more than 1 at the start of your turn easily with your like cheap trash infantry. But 20 fate dice is still pretty good, honestly. Plus, you could also get more if you take the other warlord trait enhancement, that generates more for you when you kill people. So the amount of fate dice that is going to be running through these Eldar armies is absolutely wild. So that's already pretty good. He also has Doom. You shoot at an enemy within 18 inches and invisibility to Eldrad. On a 2+, you get +1 to wound it. Until for the rest of the battle round, I believe. Yeah, or until the end of the turn. So it doesn't roll over for a battle round, but it does last for your shooting and fight phases. That one's a little bit tougher to pull off because Eldrad is just a foot dude. He's like attached to Guardians, which isn't very good. And he himself is not super hard to kill. He's only T4 with a 4+ invulnerable save. So this is probably the easiest Eldrad profile to take down, to be honest. But he's like he's kind of badass himself. He can shoot characters with his Mind War. It's an anti-character 4+, so if they have a character in the unit, you wound on a 4. And it's precision, so if you can see the character, you can assign the save to them. It's AP2, and if they fail it, you can miracle dice in a damage characteristic to kill them. So he's pretty lethal anti-character if they get within 18 inches. And then he's okay at melee, I guess. He's anti-infantry 2, strength 5, AP 1, 2 damage, it's whatever. But you're mostly taking him for those special abilities. The ability to generate 3 additional fate dice is wild. So the Flesh Terror's chapter keyword is different, chat, because it specifically references the Blood Angels detachment. The difference there is that like he's from a successor, and they don't want you mixing the successor characters in the sub-faction detachment, the special Blood Angels detachment, with the Blood Angels characters proper. But as far to my knowledge, he doesn't do anything about the standard detachment. So he doesn't get taken along alongside other specifically Blood Angels epic heroes. But the implication is that if you take him in a Gladius detachment, he can be taken alongside epic heroes of other chapters. But we just like the rule was unclear, and we haven't seen the backsides of any of the other epic hero cards. We don't have any indication that they work that way. Is it true that Deathguard won every practice game in the day of release? GW nerf bombed everything? I have no idea. I could not tell you whether or not that was the case. Question about epic hero. You can only take one epic hero, period? No. You can only take one of each epic hero datasheet. One of each, not one period. The original diagram that they have in their list building article is a little bit confusing. I could see why you thought that, but that's not how it works. What do I think about the issue with mixed toughness characters and bodyguard? Precision weapons would roll to wound against bodyguards? Yes, that's correct. I don't think that's an issue. I think that's just how it works. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's just like you have to pick it one way or another, and that's just how it goes. I think that precision weapons having some sort of benefit is fine. Yeah. So the thing about the Champions of Rust detachment, chat, is that that's a specific Space Wolves detachment. So they said that you can't take non-Space Wolves units in the Space Wolves detachment, but they did not say the same is the same is true for the non-Space Wolf Marine detachments. So if you're playing a non-Codex Compliant Marine chapter, you will have access to multiple detachments at launch. You can either play Gladius Strike Force, or you can play whatever your special chapter detachment is. So that's Sons of Sanguinius, Champions of Rust, Unforgiven, and the other ones that I forget the name of. Sword Host? Is it the Black Templars one? Black Spear Task Force for Deathwatch. Righteous Crusaders for Black Templars. So we don't know how it interacts with Gladius Strike Force, though, which is the open question currently. But as we can see with Eldrad, he can just get taken regardless. He doesn't care about what other heroes you have in your list. So the thing with the precision weapons, I think people are overthinking precision weapons, to be honest, chat, because they're kind of rare. Unless you're in an epic duel with someone, there's not a ton of precision weapons. outside of like the Vindicare, I guess. So if you're really worried about the Vindicare, but the counterplay is also really easy. You just don't put the leader model in line of sight. You can only precise a character in a unit that you can see, not the unit, physically the character. You have to have visibility to the character itself. So if you put that one dude behind a wall and the rest of the unit in front of him, they can shoot the unit, but they can't precision the character. So suddenly like the whole thing's gone. So not only is it kind of rare, but you can also just, if you're that worried about it, you can just turn the keyword off if you really want to. So I think people are overthinking precision, to be perfectly honest, but who knows? You could also just not attach the character to the unit and then keep them safe the whole game. I think the intent would be to run a Neurotyrant with Tyrant Guard. I think so. They definitely seem like they buff Tyrant Guard better, but we have to see what Hive Tyrants do. We have no idea what those guys do. They might have huge buffs for Tyrant Guard. Who knows? Anyway, let's keep talking. We talked about all the Eldar data sheets. We also have some nice little Imperial Guardsmen. The Catachan Jungle Fighters. Awkwardly not that good at fighting in the jungle. They get +1 strength and AP when they charge, so they go to strength 4, AP 1. But they're only 1 attack, I guess. And they all just have close combat weapons. Okay. And you can give them +1 to hit, right? With the order, fixed bayonets. But that's about all they do. And they can have a Voxcaster. They scout 6 inches, which is the benefit. But to be fair, 6-inch scout is really good. But you have sentinels for that. So like I don't really know what role these guys are fulfilling, to be honest. Catachan Jungle Fighters seem like a big miss. It's a little bit sad. We've seen a couple duds so far. These guys definitely seem like one of them. But like between Ratling Snipers being sweet and Scout Sentinels being sort of nutso, I just don't know why you would need another unit that pregame moves. Especially that isn't particularly exciting. Yeah. Well. Oh well. Sorry, Catachan Jungle Fighters. Maybe they're super cheap. Maybe they're like 4 points per model. They don't have a weird strat. We have all the strats for the detachment, so they have no additional synergy. It could be that there's like, if you have like Iron Hand Strachan, maybe he gives like huge benefits for them. They could have character buffs, because Catachans were always about characters to begin with, right? Like their whole like sub-faction identity was like characters giving aura buffs, and they might just do that. So who knows? Think about getting back into 40 play. Haven't played since 6th. Do I think you should? Of course I think you should. God's Vendetta. Welcome back, by the way, to the community. I hope you had a good time away. But 10th edition looks frickin' rad. I think it's going to be a lot easier to like comprehend than previous editions, and so I think this is a good time to get back in. Once all the rules come out, right now we're in kind of like a limbo period where we don't know all of the data sheets and stuff, so I can't give you any like list building tips or anything at all. But you know, give it a month or so, and people are gonna be like all up on 10th edition. So if you want to start repainting your army now, I would say now's the time to do it. They could pregame move transports. I guess they do give 6-inch scout to their transport. Maybe there's like a some like a Doom Hammer. Is that the what's the big transport tank? Is it a Doom Hammer? A Doom shooty gun guy? Maybe you could give that thing a pregame move. And that's the reason for you taking your Catachan Jungle Fighters. It is a Doom Hammer. I nailed it. Yes, this guy. It's the Vulcan. Oh no, this is a Magma Cannon. Which is the one with the Vulcan Mega Bolter? Bane Hammer has the anti-cover gun, right? Is it Stormlord? No, that's like a mortar, right? Oh, it is the Vulcan. It is the Stormlord. Okay. So you could carry 40 guys. So you can, if these transport capacities remain the same, you could put 10 jungle fighters and then like 30 Kazarkit in it, I guess, and then pregame move it. New technology we found. Guys, a good call out, chat. You could give your your super heavy transport pregame move. Let's go. Let's go. Now that HQ slots are gone, how does the rule of 3 work for captains and lieutenants? Can you run 3 Terminator captains, 3 Primaris lieutenants, and 3 Phobos captains? That is certainly what it looks like, chat. If you wanted to run nothing but characters, I think that you probably could. There may be special rules on the captain datasheet that you can only include 1 captain in your army or something, or like 1 captain and 1 chapter master, but honestly, I kind of doubt it. I don't think they're going to reclaim those like once per army rules or once per detachment rules. Running a Gravis Captain, 6 Aggressors, a new Apothecary, and a Land Raider Crusader. I would be kind of surprised if you could fit 8 Gravis guys in a Land Raider. You could probably fit 6, if I were to hazard a guess. Maybe 7, right? What's the Crusader right now? Is it 16 models? And Gravis count is 2, probably. Show me Land Raider Crusader. Or not. Alright, well, this is riveting content. The Crusader currently... It is 16, so maybe you could fit 8. Unless they count as 3. I guess that probably works. We'll have to see, though. That seems sweet. Have they clarified what a dedicated transport is? I think it's probably going to be like the base, the lighter transports. So stuff like rhinos and like chimeras and stuff. That just gives them, you have a unit cap of 6 per data sheet rather than 3. It's just like battle line, but for transports, basically. Now I said that Deathstrike missile launcher as well. This one I haven't actually had a chance to read through, but this is a meaty profile right here. So it does an action if it has if it's not fired its Deathstrike missile. It can place a target marker on the battlefield or move the target marker. So it works like it did in the previous game, in the previous edition. You can only fire its weapon if you did not designate a target or adjust it. So if you didn't do anything with your token, you can fire it. And it gets the attack on everything within 6 inches of the target marker. But it only has 1 profile now, so it doesn't get the multiple profiles. And it's kind of a weird profile, to be honest. It's blast 1 shot. 2d6 hits on 2, strength 16, AP 4. So it's pretty tough. It doesn't really kill vehicles. It also doesn't like ignore cover, so a lot of stuff just saves against it. All right. 6 inches of the marker is pretty good, but that doesn't really like kill a lot of stuff, so I don't know how much your opponent's worried about it. I guess the danger with the Deathstrike now is that it battle shocks you, most likely, because if you do like 2d6 strength 16s to like a unit of, 10 wounds of idiot infantry, you probably half kill them. Because you probably do 5 wounds to them, and if they're really lucky, maybe they save 1 if they're like a 3+ save, plus cover. So they'll probably take 5 damage. You'll probably half kill most like objective holding dummies. And then that starts to force battle shock, so then they start to potentially fail their checks. I think that is potentially pretty okay. That would have to be pretty reasonably priced, I think, because it's certainly less scary than just like plowing somebody for, whatever, like D3+6 mortals. Or whatever the big warheads did in the last edition. I think it's a little bit of a cleaner profile, though. It's nice that it fires like a normal missile rather than doing like random mortal wounds to everything. But I think like heavy armored stuff actually doesn't really care so much for this, which is a little bit odd. Oh, Scout only applies to dedicated transport? I'm not 100% sure, chat. I assumed it was any embarked transport, but you might be right. That's worth checking, so people don't get confused. Fortunately, we have the technology. Just grab the rules. Now that we have this cool rules PDF that Games Workshop gave us, that was very nice of them. We can just search for Scout, because it's a searchable document. Look how easy this is, this rules set. Oh, it is only dedicated transport, chat. Oh no! You're right. Our dreams of pregame moving a Storm Lord are gone. Ah, Sag. I guess you could also do that on like Land Raiders and stuff if you put Hounds of Mordkai in them, because those guys are 6-inch pregame move. That's sad. When are we getting a faction preview tier list? I was going to do it today, but people told me not to because I'd already done it. So maybe I will do it. Maybe I'll do it next week. We'll pencil that in for next week. Now that we have all of the faction previews out. But we'll even have like more information about more factions. We'll probably have a better idea of what Space Marines and Tyranids do next week. So we'll be able to make a nicer thing. A nicer, a more informed discussion. Votan Sagittor gets it. Yeah, I mean, everything that's dedicated transport right now will get it for sure. And I think it's anything that's like a small transport that carries 10 guys will most likely get it. I don't think it's going to be like wildly surprising. All right, let's keep moving. We had the Lehman Rust was the other one. Here he is. Ta-da! Interestingly, I guess we didn't see the back edge of the back of this guy's card, but what we have seen so far, I don't know why this is not zooming. It's gonna be a little cut off, everybody. I'll just make my thing smaller. What we have seen so far is that none of the tanks or monsters have had like vehicle mechanics or vehicle squadron mechanics, so you're most likely not going to be able to take this thing in triplicate. But because this is just what looks like the plasma or the battle cannon variant and not, the Eradicator or Punisher, it's likely that you're going to be able to take trios of separate varieties of Lehman Rust. So unless they have some sort of weird special rule in the back side of their card, you can take 3 battle cannon variants, 3 Eradicator variants, 3 Punisher variants, 3 Vanquisher variants, and then maybe even 3 tank commanders. Who knows? But he's a pretty impressive defensive profile. The thing actually is kind of like ludicrously hard to kill, especially because it has ablative plating, or armored superiority, or whatever it's called now. The new stratagem to reduce damage by 1 targeting vehicles. So he can be -1 damage. He can be smoke screened. So even out in the open, he can be cover and stealth. Then he's T11. So 2+ save goes to a 1-up save with cover. 13 wounds. And he only damages at 4. So the Lehman Rust battle tank's like kind of a real tank. We actually saw the Lehman Rust battle cannon profile earlier. It is strength 10, so it does actually. It's the one profile we've seen so far that actually cares about toughness 11, which is sad. So Lehman Rust battle tanks are actually going to be hilariously bad at killing each other. A fight between 2 Lehman Rust battle tanks will just go for like the entirety of the game because they just shoot like D6 plus 3 times, hitting on 4s, winning on 5s, saving on 2s for 3 damage. You have to convert 5 of them to kill one. It will just never kill another Lehman Rust. You really need like las cannons to get through this profile for sure. But the battle cannon itself is like, I don't know, it doesn't seem that great. It's good against heavy infantry that are out in the open, but how often that's going to happen, I'm not entirely sure. So, I don't know. Otherwise, its plasma cannon's kind of awkward. It's just strength 8, AP 3, 2 damage. So that's okay against heavy infantry. And all the other weapons are what we've seen before. It does reroll hit rolls of 1. And rerolls against enemies on objective markers. So that does improve the reliability of the battle cannon a little bit. I actually like that ability for the Lehman Rust pretty well. It kind of reinforces the like really toxic Imperial Guard. Just like shoot them off their objectives and then score 8 every turn. Game plan, and that's how the faction works. I don't think you can really fault them too much for that. So, I don't know, pretty standard stuff. Kind of more interested in seeing the other variants, though, because we already saw the battle cannon. I hope the Vanquisher is very good. No Necron datasheet so far, chat. It's very sad. Faction tier list, but a tier like where they cry. Tyranids would be like, they would normally be like number 4, but myself alone puts them at number 1. And then Death Guard players are right after that. And then probably Necron players. And then Imperial Fist players. And then everyone else. So Squadron is a different characteristic, chat. So Squadron is a keyword that tells you what some that defines some interactions. For example, like orders and stuff will, in some cases, only be able to tag keyworded squadron units. What I'm referring to is an ability that they had previously, which was referred to as Vehicle Squadron. I think that's what it was called in 9th edition, but that might have been an 8th edition sort of callback that allowed you to take them in units of multiples. Yeah, actually, literally, it was called Vehicle Squadron. So this is what I'm referring to here, chat. When I say Vehicle Squadron, I might need to do another nomenclature video now that all the USRs have changed. This is what I'm referring to when I refer to Vehicle Squadron. It's an ability that allows you to take multiple units in a single force organization slot. They must set up within 6 inches of each other, then they separate after deployment. So that's what I'm referring to, not the squadron keyword. The squadron keyword is a different thing. That just tells them you can issue orders to them, I think, basically. Yes, Lehman Rust is like very carefully 1 millimeter off of an objective. I would pay to see a Lehman Rust fight. They end up just tank shocking each other to do mortal wounds because they can't get through each other's defensive profiles. Whoever charges first gets a slight edge because the other unit can't then tank shock back. Is the Death Guard Demon Prince that much worse than the normal one? It is not great, for sure. The Death Guard Demon Prince is a little bit sad. All right, chat. Let's move on. We did have, and I'm going to steal this directly from the Warhammer Competitive Reddit, because they're wonderful. Invictaris over here, shout out to this gentleman and a scholar, has gone through the battle reports from Leviathan that came out over this weekend and has compiled all of the rules as far as we know them for the Gladius Task Force. So as a little bit of a refresher, the detachment ability for the Gladius Task Force is the new combat doctrines mechanic. So here we go. Here it is. So it gives you once per game, you get a use of these abilities. So each one can only be selected once per game. So you get 3 turns in which you get one of these. You can either advance and shoot. Importantly, this is huge because since this has been spoiled, we've learned that a lot of other things trigger off advancing and shooting. For example, the equivalent of actions in 9th edition checks your eligibility to shoot. And if you have an effect like an assault weapon or the Devastator Doctrine, you can actually perform actions after you advance. So this Devastator Doctrine's super powerful if you have action-specific secondaries. So this ability is amazing. You can fall back, shoot, and charge. Also, great. strong ability. Just makes you like a super sick Ultramarine guy. And Assault Doctrine, you can advance and charge, which again, super strong. And if we see any like +1 to advance and charge rolls, this thing's actually sick. Which Gabriel Seth does actually, right? Now that I say that, is this guy like sweet in Gladius Task Force? Oh no, he just gives it to them all the time. Just kidding. Just kidding. So yeah, that's what the detachment ability is. So other than that, we also get stratagems and enhancements based on what we have learned from the battle reports. Storm of Fire for a CP. If you're in Devastator Doctrine, gives you an extra AP. So it looks like these, like all the other stratagems in other sub-factions, you get benefits for using the stratagem in specific circumstances. So like Tyranids want to be in Synapse, Demons want to be in Shadow of Chaos, Space Marines want to be in their specific doctrine. Storm of Fire gives you Ignore Cover and +1 AP if you're in Devastator Doctrine. That's pretty solid. I mean, like we just talked about, cover is going to be huge, so Ignore Cover is going to be a big deal. Basically just +1 AP, and if you get +2 AP in Devastator Doctrine, that's big. You can get like Las Cannons up to the equivalent of AP 5. Pretty good. Actually shoot through a 3+ save and cover, which is good. Squad Tactics. You can move D6 inches at the end of your opponent's movement phase if any enemy units are within 9. So it basically gives you a roughly equivalent of the Ranger ability, where you can move when somebody moves within 9, but it works at the end of your opponent's movement phase. But it's kind of like a very situational Phantasm. It's worse than Phantasm, but not... but that's okay, because like that's not the point of the army. You get a full 6 inches if you're in Tactical Doctrine, so that's pretty strong. Honor the Chapter gives you Lance, and your +1 AP in Assault Doctrine. Lance is +1 to wound if you charge that turn. That's extremely strong. Armor of Contempt, you reduce AP by 1. We saw that one already, and only in Death's Duty End is a fight on death. For any unit, importantly, not just characters anymore. So you can do it with Dreadnoughts, you can do it with Terminators, you can do it with Aggressors, all that stuff, fights on death. And then Adaptive Strategy. Now, I think Play on Tabletop, if I remember correctly, I did watch their battle report, I believe set this at 1 CP. But their like little stratagem readouts had a lot of errors in them, so I'm not 100% sure if that is... if that's entirely correct. It might be more than 1 CP, but it lets you select a doctrine out of sequence. So if you have 2 CP, and again, you have Rites of Battle on the Captain, and you have Gilliman's thing to do 2 stratagems, 1 stratagem each turn for free. So you can like adaptive strategy someone and then use one of these abilities, and you can actually do both of those for free and get the enhanced version of that ability if you use it within range of Gilliman and on the unit that the captain has joined, which is pretty sweet. The Death Guard Demon Prince Datasheet doesn't look too bad. Yeah, I think it's just a comparison with the demon version, because the demon version is like much stronger. I'm not going to go dig it up right now, actually. I've decided. But the demon version has like offensive auras and stuff like that, and can be higher toughness if he's Nurgle marked, which people are a little bit salty about. But giving stealth to like your whole army is a big deal for that guy. Yeah, we'll see how Death Guard end up being. I do think that they're going to be better than people give them credit for sure. And I think that there's going to be combos in that faction that are nuts, so for sure. So moving on to the enhancements, the Honor of Vehement. Maybe it's Honored Vehement. I don't know. That's a weird name. One of your melee weapons gets +2 strength and attacks or +2 strength and attacks in Assault Doctrine, which again you could adaptive strategy in. So that's very much like, that's basically just Argath, King of Blades, right? Artificer Armor gives you a 2+ save and a 5+ feel no pain. That's kind of cute for the like 7 wound shield captain. Makes that guy super tough to kill. I guess he's already a 2+ save, so you don't really need it, but probably for like Gravis models, that would be where you want. You go to like T6, you're probably 6 or 7 wounds, 2+ save, 5+ feel no pain. That kid is a tank. He's gonna. This Vindicare Assassin's gonna shoot him. He's like, really? You gonna try that? All right, man. Whatever you want, dude. Bolter Discipline gets you sustained hits on the bearer's entire unit. I don't know if this is in melee or just ranged attacks. Bolter Discipline sounds like it would be ranged attacks, but if it also works in melee, that's amazing. You could put this on like a Boltstorm Aggressor squad. That one with the grab, you could put this on the Gravis Apothecary, and he gets lethal and sustain on your trillions of aggressor shots, which seems good. And then Adept of the Codex, your unit counts as in Tactical Doctrine, or you select a doctrine at the beginning of the game to always be in. That one's also really strong. I guess if you have like a melee unit that you really want to use the +1 to wound on. Seems good. I like it. I like it. Do I think the objective marker move blocking will be as big of an issue as Knight or Guard players think it will be? I do, actually. Unironically, I think it's probably a worse issue than people think it'll be. Watching those battle reports, like the players like didn't respect the movement blocking, the objective movement blocking rule at all. But I think if they had, there were multiple situations where like Greater Demons physically couldn't charge enemy units, which is like super problematic. Given the fact that, especially since they've already nerfed melee significantly, and especially so, they've nerfed like big monster melee. It used to be that monsters could have like a reasonable chance of killing whatever they got into contact with, which was good because you could shoot them to death on the way in. Now they're harder to kill, so you don't shoot them quite as well, but they also melee way, way worse. So the fact that you can also set up situations where it's impossible for them to complete charges that are less than like 8 or 9 inches, it's just super toxic. It's a super duper toxic rule. I have a sneaking suspicion, chat, because none of the players in any of the showcase games respected that rule. Especially like, like Nanavati didn't respect that rule. And that's somebody who I would expect, because he's like allegedly on the playtest team. That is someone who I would expect to be aware of these updated mechanics. I have a sneaking suspicion it might not be the case in the GT packet. That might be like a casual only kind of rule. And I hate those rules. Like, if it's a bad rule, just don't put it in. You can put in an exception to it in some instances and be like, tip, if you want to have an objective marker that's like cool 3D, just make it so that your players can move through it, but not stand on top of it. Done. Sounds good. If you want to model your objective markers for a narrative game, that's fine. But if you want to play a competitive game and objective markers can arbitrarily block your movement, it's bad. It's really bad. Don't do it. Yeah, it's not amazing. So I think it will probably see that either toned down or removed in competitive play. For sure, I think a lot of competitive play circuits are going to ignore that rule entirely. I think it's a rule that's too abusable. Especially if we go by the terrain formats that the stream used. They were so heavy on terrain, you could create move blocking situations with the objectives really, really easily. All right. So we had some questions about dedicated transports. Oh, how has melee been nerfed exactly? Don't play a ton of 40k, so is melee just worth because of lethality, or are there changes to the core rules? So a little bit of both. First off, the lethality has changed significantly. Melee units are hurt much more because in more so than ranged attacks, offensive output in melee is basically also defensive. Like, the best defense is a good offense in melee, because if you charge your opponent and kill them, they don't attack you back and also do you more damage. So the fact that melee units are worse, generally speaking, like almost every melee unit has gone down like maybe a pip of damage, a couple pips of strength, and an AP value. And a lot of things have gone up toughness and saving throw characteristics. So you're doing like 50% less damage, which means there's going to be 50% more enemies there who are going to punch you back. And those punches aren't doing like huge damage to you because, again, the melee profiles have been reduced. But also, on the flip side, that's not damage that you would have taken in the last edition. On the other hand, the melee mechanics have also been nerfed. So we'll jump in the rulebook really, really quick here. And I'll have a video about how this actually works in a little bit, chat. Basically, when you complete charges... They don't have a diagram for it, unfortunately. Oh, where's the fighting diagram? Oh, here it is. Okay, cool. So when you complete charges, you are required to move base to base with your target. So the flexibility of where your unit can charge is significantly reduced, because if you have enough movement to get base to base with the target, you must do so. On top of that, unlike previous editions where once you're within a certain distance of a target, you had a range at which you could attack. So previously, back in the day, it was 1 inch and then 1 inch off that unit. And then in 9th edition, it was ½ inch and then ½ inch off that unit, of that model. Now it's base to base. So previously, in 8th or 9th edition, you could get these models into melee easily by just sort of like having this model be here, having this model be closer up, having this model be like over here, for example, and chain off this guy. You can no longer do that. So you're probably fighting in 1 rank less than you were, and your combat movement is more highly restricted, and you have less attacks and damage. For single entity fighters, that doesn't matter so much, but like a big monster that has like its own profile doesn't care about chaining off of people. But for large units of models, large units are going to have a hell of a time getting enough attacks into people. So like these little termagants, like there's no way they would ever beat these Space Marines. Then the Space Marines just get to fight back with their normal number of attacks and fucking destroy them. So yeah, melee is like they're not very good in 9th edition or in 10th edition, excuse me. And then on top of that, also you have these like you have these weird movement mechanics that are strange. Yeah, you can also... Yeah, there are some units that fight before you. That was also the case in 10th edition, but which units can do it changed. Now, if you have a unit that has a strike first effects on it, they fight before charging units. So they can fight first in your opponent's charge phase, or fight phase, before anything else goes, which is strong, but that was also like, kind of the case in the previous edition. It was just rarer, I guess, in 9th. Than it is in 10th, because it's basically just a core rule in 10th. Yeah, the fighting in ranks thing is really shocking to me, honestly. Especially because they, like, on one hand, they have this narrative that they want to push, like, horde armies. So, like, hey, you know what we want? We want Tyranids to fight in big hordes. Also, it sucks. Don't do it. And you're like, what do you... Which one is it? Do I play a big horde unit and not get into melee and get blasted out the wazoo because a D cannon shoots me 7 times, or do I play a horde unit and or do I just not play a horde unit and then like all of these like quote unquote buffs for hordes don't do anything? I don't know. Very weird. Kind of a confused design statement, I guess. If you have a leader with a large base in a unit. I guess that is true. You could fight off the leader. But then you have to put your leader in the front of the unit, and then they get potentially precision to death, so there's like a catch-22. It was pretty cool that Dark Angels could do that. They could force people to fight in a single rank. I kind of like that ability, honestly. All right. The other thing we wanted to talk about today, chat, is we were talking about keywords. Let me see if I can just shift this whole... Oops, that's my overlay. No overlay, no! Let me shift this whole thing over. So check this out, chat. They have put all of the keywords in the game, or at least most of them, onto the web store profiles, onto the web store listings. So we can see which things have which keywords. So we can actually see like which units have battle line. We just had a question about dedicated transports. It's right here. We can look at all the dedicated transports in the game, at least that are available on the GW web store. So we can have some fun with this before we wrap things up. AOS players complain that big base units can't fight in ranks, and 40k says hold my beer. I mean, the big base units can still fight in ranks in 40k. And to be fair, they're actually better, like way better at doing it than other units. Oh, this is all frozen up. Maybe I spoke too soon, chat. Give it a refresh. There it is. All right, I don't know what happened there. Like a unit of bikes or something is much better at fighting in ranks than a unit of like infantry in the newest edition. So we're on dedicated transport today, chat. And we can see all the dedicated transports in the game. Most of them pretty self-explanatory. Raiders, Starweavers, Impulsors, Immolators, Scorpius, Doom Riders, Rhinos, Chimeras, Ghost Arcs, Goliath Trucks, Razorbacks, Wave Serpents. Drop Pod. You can get your Drop Pod a pregame move if you put a Scout in it. Landspeeder Storms. That'll be interesting to see if they interact with Scout mechanics at all. All the Rhinos, Classic Trucks, and Taurox, as well as Taurox Prime. We haven't seen the datasheet for Taurox Primes, though. I'm pretty curious about the Taurox Prime, because there were hot minutes in 9th edition where Taurox Primes were actually sweet. You could, like, buff them with Tempestus Scion, like, detachment abilities, and then give them, like, huge damage buffs on their billion-shot guns, which is really cool. One thing that could be cool is to give the units different fight ranges. I agree with that. I 100% think that's one way they could go. Honestly, in my opinion, I think that they should remove piling and consolidating from the game entirely and say once your charge is completed, either all of your models in the charging unit fight or all of your models within 6 inches of the target fight. One or the other, just pick one. It doesn't really matter. I don't care so much. Just strip away like all of this range and like fight phase minutia. It's so stupid. It's like stupid and performative, and it like only matters sometimes. And it just like wildly extends the game. The charge and fight phases, if you want to actually reduce the time that 40k takes to play, the charge and fight phases are the #1 culprit. If you strip those down to their bare bones, you cut like 40 minutes off a game of 40k easily. We can also see battle line. I'm a little bit curious because right now it doesn't look that like Tyranids have any battle line units. Intercessors, Grey Hunters, Deathwatch Veterans, mostly to be expected. Grey Knight Strike Marines, Skitari, Fire Warriors, Rook Marines, Legionnaires. This is the same box, right? Is the Legionnaire box different from the Chaos Space Marine box? It's not, right? It's the same one. Yeah, these models are the same. I always think that's funny. It makes sense, like from a new player like onboarding standpoint, that they list like every unit separately. Corsair Voidscarred, our battle line. What? That's wild. But I always think it's funny to have like 3 different entries for like some of the units that build like multiple. Like Battle Sister squads build like Dominions and Celestians and Battle Sisters, and they all get listed separately. It's very funny. Poxwalker's not battle line? I guess that does make sense. Corsair Voidscarred. That's wild. Prosecutors, Custodian Guard, Veteran Guardsmen. That's just the Deathcore Krieg squad now, which is a badass profile, by the way. Those things are rock. Jackals, Zangors, Neophyte Hybrids. Zangors, okay. Acadian Shock Troops, Necron Warriors, Chaos Cultists, Acolyte Hybrids, Witches, Cabalite Warriors, Orc Boys. Immortals, our battle line. That's cool. Cultist Warbands, Catachan Jungle Fighters, Rax. The Armigers are battle line. I guess we did see that, right? Somebody was like wondering, like mentioning that they were worried that they would only be able to take like 1 off of each of the Armiger varieties. And I almost said it, like, I would be shocked if they aren't just battle line. You could take 6 of each. I guess that is, like, less than you could take now, right? Because you could take 3 units of 3 currently, so you could take 9. But it's a little bit cleaner. You don't have to cut them in units of 3 and then vehicle squadron them. Where's my Armiger data sheet at? Oh, here it is. Oh, yeah, there it is. Duh. It was here the whole time. I don't even know. Did I? I don't think I even mentioned that in my Imperial Knights review. I think I might have just glossed right over that. That's kind of sweet. So you could just take 6 of each. That does mean that Imperial Knights are limited to 12 Armigers, right? Whereas Chaos Knights get way more War Dogs. Not that that matters. Once you're at 12, I think you're like, I think we've had enough. I don't know how many lists will be able to fit more than 12 vehicles in them. I don't think you can take 3, though, chat, is what I'm saying. I don't believe that you'll be able to take multiple in a single unit. I think you're going to be able to take only 1 at a time. But you could take 6 individuals rather than units of 3. Up to 3 units of 3. Yeah, we did already have entire armatures, but they capped it like 14, right? And they were really bad for Imperial Knights anyway. There was only War Dogs. You only ever saw War Dogs do that because the armature versions were terrible. It turns out, if you lose out on your Bondsman abilities, Imperial Knight armatures are actually really bad. They only get really good once you buff them. Plague Marine, more Plague Marine stuff. So here's the thing, chat. Not a single Tyranid on this list. Tyranids don't get battle line infantry. I love my faction. It's so good. Are we missing anybody else? We hit everyone, right? League's got their Hearthkin. Tau get Fire Warriors. Orcs get Boys. Necrons get Warriors. Gene Circles get Gene Circle guys. Drukhari get Witches and stuff. Eldar get Voidsguard for whatever reason. World Eaters get Jackals and Berserkers. Thousand Sons get Rubrics and Zangors and Cultists and stuff. Death Guard get just Plague Marines, but Plague Marines have 3 entries on this list for some reason. Chaos Space Marines get all the Legionnaires and Cultists. Chaos Knights get all the War Dogs. Sisters get Battle Sisters. Custodians get Prosecutors and Guards. Mechanicus get Rangers. Militarum get all the different infantry squads. Yeah. I think everybody but Tyranids. Wild. Absolutely wild. I guess we didn't see any agents of the Imperium. Didn't we, did we see, we didn't see Breachers as battle line, right? Breachers weren't battle line, but they were OC2, right? Correct, yeah. They were kind of like battle line equivalent, but you could still not take 6 of them. But that's, you can't even take more than 2 anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Good old Tyranids. Well, also, we saw that the like Termagants and Tyranids aren't battle line, and if Termagants and Tyranids are not battle line, I have no idea what would be. That is the most battle line of units in Tyranids. To be honest, I don't, unless there's like weird synergies with battle line stuff, I don't think that really matters, to be fair, because I don't foresee myself, given the points scale in this edition, I don't foresee myself taking more than 3 of anything anyway. So I don't think it's like a nerf, but it is just kind of weird. Tyranids are not battle line, chat. We could even straight up just look at their freaking data sheet that they gave us yesterday. Do I have it saved? Oops. I did have it saved. Look at this, chat. Look at this lack of the battle line keyword. Hell yeah. I bet they're 8 points a model, too. For this garbage-ass, terrible data sheet. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird. I think one of the weird things is it means, like, just like the real Swarmulists are super dead. Because you can, for the Termagant specifically, you can only take 20. So anyone who owns, you can only take 20 and they're not battle line. So anyone who owns more than 60 Termagants, including myself, who has like 200, just get wrecked, I guess. You can go play like multi-detachment onslaught games or something, because you are destroyed. I doubt things will get battle line in different detachments, chat. I wouldn't put it past them, but I wouldn't be super surprised. I would be kind of surprised if that was the case. All right, anyone else we want to see? Ooh, infiltrators. We can see all the units with infiltrate. Whoa. Sicarians, Ghost Keel, Striking Scorpions. God's Ghosts infiltrate. Hot diggity damn. Okay. Commandos, that's to be expected. Eliminators, sure. Primaris infiltrators. That's so weird. So it looks like... Can we see Scouts? Scouts is a keyword here as well. Let's go through this again. Flayed Ones infiltrate. Whoa! Flayed Ones infiltrate? That's huge. That's so different. Oh, it seized up. Games Workshop website, no! All right. Some characters. Stealth battlesuits. Ratlings. Lictors. That's spicy. Slime Marbo infiltrates. So here's the question, right? So it looks like Primaris infiltrators infiltrate, which I guess, to be fair, it would be weird if the unit named infiltrators does not have the infiltrators keyword. That's fair. But on the flip side, it's weird that they wouldn't scout move. So incursors and reavers scout, it looks like, but infiltrators do not. Weird. Yeah, there's the reavers. The Hounds of Mordkai do, so we know that they already have it. That's wild. Looks like scouts are getting it. The Warwalker we already saw. Khazarkin are getting it. Why would you ever play stupid, stupid, Katachi Jungle Fighters if Khazarkin have it? Maybe they have sweet synergies with these guys. Recruit, I'll have it. I bet Alea has it. I don't know. I would be shocked if Valerian does, but I bet Alea can join into Witch Seeker squads and make them pregame move. Palatine, probably because of Dominions, I imagine. Metamorphs, Adelan Jackals, Scout Sentinels, which you saw already. The Jackal Elephants, which makes sense. Does Darkstrider scout and infiltrate? Oh, damn. That guy's going to be sick. Shroud Runners is to be expected. Invocatus probably grants to everybody. Corsair Voidsguard. These are battle line infantry with scout. Damn. Eldar just so many good battle line units. Is Deep Strike a keyword? It is. Deep Strike is a keyword, chat. There's a lot of stuff with Deep Strike, though. All the jump pack guys. The Calexis Assassin. So we saw the Eversor Assassin has Scout. So the Assassins are like distributing all of their pregame moves. The Vindicare infiltrates. The Eversor scouts. The Calexis Assassin infiltrates. I don't know what the Calidus will do, but that's interesting. Grey Knight stuff. Terminators. Big Demons. That one was probably the Venom Crawler thing. The Warp Forge stuff is probably because Obliterators Deep Strike. They've always Deep Struck. That's been their thing. Deathcoptas, Ophidians, more stuff with jetpacks. Triarch Praetorians, let's go. They did not Deep Strike before, right? They just had their little jump pack ability. More Terminators. So many Terminators. Ephrael Sturgeon and Kaiganel. What? That's wild. Oh, Inky's here. Inky, what do you think about Ephrael Sturgeon and Kaiganel being able to Deep Strike? You want to come visit? Want to come say hi to chat? Come visit. She doesn't want to come up, chat. Oh, but she'll yell. Here, come here. Come visit. No. Okay, well, maybe later. I don't know if there's too many huge surprises here. Oh, Gargoyles got it back. They couldn't do it in the last edition for some reason. Pure Strain Gene Stealers do? Do they? I'm going to need you to calm down, okay? Did they have that on their datasheet? I totally don't even remember. Oh, Pure Strains do. Not Gene Stealers from Tyranids. Just lapse in memory there, chat. Oopsies. Pure Strains do because they're from Gene Stealer cults, and everything in Gene Stealer cult does it. So that makes sense. Let's calm down, Cat. Her TV show probably turned off and she's mad. Yeah, I don't know if there's like too much exciting to say here. Vashtor, I guess. That's cool. Hey, all the storm speeders. So I guess that's going to be a flying vehicle thing. Falcons. Yeah, I guess we should expect all of the land speeders to deep strike now. That sounds annoying. Can swarms move through terrain? I don't believe they can. I think they're stuck behind walls. Does Inky play Ultramarines? No, Inky's okay with Tyranids, actually. Inky doesn't destroy Tyranids too often. When do we think we're getting all the data sheets? I think that we're getting... it looks like we're going to be getting the data sheets between now and the 24th, so over the next 2 weeks or so. I think this week is like Tyranids and Space Marines, and then over the next week or so, they're like slowly rolling out all of the other indexes. All right, any other keywords we want to look at, chat? We looked at scouts momentarily already. I don't know if there's too many that would be sort of surprising. So the 16th is points day. So next week. Hell yeah. Is stealth on here? I don't believe we have stealth, chat. That's not a keyword, that's an ability. I don't know why they would keyword deep strike, though. Is there anything that we've... I guess... We definitely have some data sheets that deep strike. Was that in their keyword section? That would surprise me. What deep strikes? Where's the Terminator data sheet? I have that on my hard drive. No, it's just an ability. Yeah, I don't know why they do that. There she is. Inky's here. Inky, come say hello to chat. Hi, chat. Yeah, it's weird that some of the abilities are keyworded and some of them are not. It's very strange. Well, Rapid Ingress checks off of the ability. It doesn't check off of the keyword. Oh, right on my headset. Okay. Oh my god. Now you're tangled. Oh no! She tied herself entirely around. Inky, I need to save you. Oh, you're gonna pull it off. No. Inky, why? Inky's getting kinky. Oh. What the fuck? There you go. It's still around your feet. There you go, kitty. All good. She sits like this a lot, by the way, chat. Oh, now she's gone. She also sits like that. She goes to hang out on her castle. That was a little bit of a drop-in by Inky the Cat. Hope everyone enjoyed that. I believe that they mentioned swarms. Are Ripper swarms not keyworded? Maybe that's like one of those weird ones. Because they mentioned swarms, as somebody pointed out to me. It's called out, I believe, in the Tyranid detachment rule, because they get a benefit targeting swarms when they use their like anti-infantry benefit. Guess we can look at the Ripper Swarm keyword list. Oh, this is Space Marines. I was about to be like, oh yeah, no swarm keyword there, but that's a termagant unit. Yeah, no. Ripper Swarms are still swarms. Yeah, there's definitely the swarm keyword. It exists, chat. Worry not. It's not gone. But those units don't seem very good, so who knows. Maybe it would be gone competitively. All right, everybody. I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up there. I think that's basically everything I had to talk about. Some interesting stuff. Land speeders. Deep striking is pretty cool. But again, we're going to have all these data sheets on Thursday and Friday. So definitely expect some live streams once that stuff gets dropped. I'll probably do just a big read through of all the tier data sheets and drop some first impressions and stuff. And then also, I'll probably do the same for Space Marines, I'm sure. But I'm psyched to have actual data sheets and to have like a holistic view. And hopefully this weekend, I might try, if we just make up some random points values, I might build some lists. And because we have basically every component we need to play a game besides the points values, I might try to play some games this weekend. So I'll most likely do that over on Twitch. If you haven't followed me over there, please do so. Just check out my link tree. There's a link in the description. I've also been posting up basically the last bevy of 9th edition battle reports and stream pods over there. Those are going up between this week and next week. And I also have a bunch of Speed Freaks gameplay on there too. That's super fun. That game rocks. So go check that out on the Tactical Tortoise TV channel. What's the deal with 2 different warrior units? I think one of them is just so that they don't have to like treat double sword guys separately. If they just try to balance all of their weapons against each other, then they don't have to care about doing the gun plus melee weapon variety separately, so they can just be like, 1 unit's all melee, 1 unit's all range. Because you could always take double melee weapons on them if you wanted to. Ripper Swarms need to really be cheap to be worth it? Yeah. I think that there's going to be some units that are just there for like deep striking and doing actions and stuff, and I think Ripper Swarms are fine for that, honestly. Especially now that things like Engage in All Fronts doesn't require a minimum unit size, it just requires that you're not battle shocked. That's probably going to be solid. But anyway, chat, exciting stuff this week, so I'll probably be on here a little bit more, and I might do some gameplays for some other stuff over on the Twitch channel later on this week as well. But with that, you could take 6 warrior units. Let's go! Because they used to be troops. Now they're not. Maybe that's why. Tyranids don't get battle line because they split all of our troops units into multiple different types. I don't know. But anyway, I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching. And remember to keep it classy. Have happy wargaming. All that stuff. And cheers.